Today, we're talking about how do you get started with your law school applications? Like guys, what's the first step? What do? You know you want to apply to law school. You're looking at like this application situation and you're like, I don't know where to get started. So if that's you, don't worry. We are going to talk about how you get started with your law school applications. For those of you who are new, my name is Sydney Montgomery. I'm the CEO of Montgomery Admissions Consulting. I specialize in working with first generation and minority law school applicants. I have been doing this for almost 8 years. This is my full-time job. I am really thrilled to just have the opportunity to have a job that allows me to give back to others. I think that's incredibly rare sometimes. But today we are talking about how do you get started on your law school application process? What are the first steps? I want to kind of answer that question. All right, but the essays or the application, like LSAT aside, what do I need to do and how do I get started with the actual application process? So the first thing that I'm going to say is we're going to talk about brainstorming and what that looks like. And then I'm going to talk to you about, you guessed it, making a plan. You're like, oh my God, I'm so sick of her talking about making a plan. Making a plan, yes, we're going to make plans. Plans are great. We're going to talk about a timeline for your essays, for submissions. And then the third thing I'm going to talk to you about is how you can get started on some of those other elements that aren't essays that are just as important in your application. So let's first talk about brainstorming. This is not going to be the only video I talk about brainstorming in. I know that the essays are very daunting for many people, and I think one of the reasons they are daunting is because you're like, I don't know what to write. I don't know. I don't know. Like you have all of this material in your head. And I've worked with over 200 students at this point, and I've heard everything to like I've been journaling for months, right? Or I've been doing all of these things, but what do I do with all this information? Or I don't know. I'm trying to pick the one moment to talk about for my law school application process. I don't really know. So the first thing to do is to remember that you usually have more than one essay for the law school application process. Of course, there's your personal statement, but most students would be very, very well served by also writing a diversity statement. Listen, diversity is broadly defined. It is an experience, a perspective, an identity, a culture, a part of you that maybe someone else doesn't have, that gives you a different perspective. You can be an Anglo-Saxon white male, and I have seen some very beautiful diversity statements come from that. Because we don't judge books by the cover here, right? I have had students talk about maybe the fact that their family is mixed, or they've grown up in a biracial household, even if they aren't themselves biracial, or they've had siblings who are adopted, or maybe they have a certain culture, an Italian heritage, an Irish heritage that's very important to them. Maybe it is that they are an Olympic athlete or a triathlete. I'm clearly not a sports person, you can tell. Maybe it's that you have been playing professionally. You've been playing music at Carnegie Hall, or you've been on tour singing. There are so many unique experiences that people have that I think they just sort of write off, right? Now, there are some schools that have very specific diversity statements, but a lot of schools have very broad definitions of diversity. And I would say if you've been on tour professionally, you probably have a unique way of looking at the world that maybe someone like myself who does not have quite as a musical talent. I play the piano. I used to teach the piano, but I'm by no means touring. So you probably have a different outlook on the world than I do, right? If you're a professional figure skater, you probably have a different outlook on the world than I do. And I think that's valuable. Law schools want to get to know you. They want to get to know who you are. So I would say you should write one, right? So you have a personal statement and a diversity statement. And for some schools, you may have a YS essay. You may have some other supplemental essays, depending on what schools you're applying to. But first step is understanding that you probably are going to be writing at least 2 essays. It's important. Why? Because I think that starts to take some of the pressure off this feeling of, oh my God, I don't know where to start writing the one essay that's going to make or break my law school applications. So even if you can have that mindset of like, the two essays, I get two chances to show myself authentically, that can take some of the pressure off, because there's a really high level of stress and anxiety when you think you have to fit your whole life into 2 pages. Okay, maybe 3 pages doesn't exactly make you feel calm, but it is certainly more. I think understanding that first step is understanding also the purpose of a personal statement. There are so many different opinions about what goes into a personal statement. I can only tell you from how we counsel our students here, and from, how our students have been successful, right? Almost 80% of our students, 78% of our students have gotten into a T30 school. Over 56% of our students have gotten at least a half tuition scholarship. There are other ways to write a personal statement. I'm going to tell you how we think about personal statements. Your personal statement should be grounded in why you want to go to law school. I think the best personal statements are focused on a particular area or particular passion that's driving you to law school. I look at it as your first case, if you will, right? You want to give me the evidence that's going to convince me. I aim admissions. I want to be convinced that you actually want to go to law school, that you've thought about this, that it's not on a whim, that you have some sort of idea of what you want to do with your law degree. It absolutely can change. I'm expecting it to change, right? But I like to see that you have some sort of focus. And so I would say that you want to think about, okay, why do I want to go to law school? Just for yourself, right? Step one. Step one in preparing for your law school applications is to do some self work. Figure out why you want to go to law school. I cannot tell you the number of people that I talk to, and I start to ask them this question, and they give me like 12 areas of law that they want to practice, maybe time, I'm not sure, or they haven't really drilled down on what it is that they want to do. Law school is not like undergrad, right? Like everyone, like most people go to college, not everyone, but most people, they go to college, you figure out when you get there. Law school is a very large and expensive investment. I think, especially if you are a BIPOC student, it would behoove you to have a little bit more focus. You can change your mind when you get there, but let's have a plan. I'm a planner. So step one is that introspective work. Figure out why you want to go to law school. And if you don't know, but you feel like you want to go to law school, but you really have no idea what you want to do when you're in law school, do some research. Have some informational interviews. You can find the answer, right? Law school itself is not the only place where this answer resides. You can talk to alumni. You can do informational interviews. You can try to shadow. You can really figure out what is the day in the life of a lawyer, of an attorney. It is not what you see on TV at all, right? There's like all these common myths. I did a really great Mythbusters series with the legal access pipeline LEAP by Cindy Lopez, and it was fantastic. And one of the things that came up was, the myth that you have to like arguing to go to law school. And the reality is most lawyers are not litigators. Not even all litigators like arguing, but most lawyers are not litigators. So what you see in TV represents a very small percentage of lawyers in the country. So really take the time to figure out why you want to go to law school. And then once you feel solid about that, you can articulate it in 1 to 2 sentences. I actually am going to ask you to put that on a shelf. And when you are brainstorming for your essays, I want you to brainstorm a wide array of stories, moments. I'm going to say that again, stories and moments. Stories and moments on your best friend. If you've heard nothing else, understand that storytelling is the way to write an impactful personal statement. Write a beautiful story, a few stories, weave them together. Beautiful writing, imaginative, evocative writing that also is persuasive and focused. I mean, that is the recipe of just a beautiful personal statement. And you can all do that. You can all write a beautiful, evocative personal statement that connects with me as a reader, that convinces me that you want to go to law school, that shows me in maybe 3 moments, stories, anecdotes, who you are as a person, and why you're so passionate about a certain area, and why law school is the next logical step on your journey, right? You can all do that. I believe in you. I really do. And I have seen it, right? There's no one that's like, oh, I'm a terrible writer. You can do it. I promise you. Writing is a skill. It is something you can get better at. You are all capable of it. You are all capable of writing this beautiful personal statement. But in order to do that, you need to brainstorm stories first. And so don't just brainstorm the stories that are about the law, because you will only brainstorm a very small subset of stories. It will be a very boring personal statement. I actually want you to do a large brainstorm. I want you to brainstorm all of the moments that are significant to you in your life. Positive moments, moments of leadership, growth, impact, and maybe some negative moments of adversity and obstacles, right? All of the moments that have shaped you into the person that you are. All of the moments that have pushed you and challenged you, the hard moments, the joyous moments, the moments that are personal and professional. I often find that students leave out these personal stories and they want to know who you are as a person too, right? So it should be a nice mix of personal and professional stories of accomplishments and strengths, maybe some obstacles or adversities. But I want you to brainstorm all of those moments, because what you will find is that you will be able to connect the dots uh, between stories that might not immediately go together, but actually have some really strong and interesting and nuanced connected themes that then become that beautiful and evocative personal statement, right? And so when you do a large brainstorm, it allows you to see connections in your life that you maybe have not seen before. And that's so important, because you are one person, and we often don't take the time to look back and be like, I didn't realize that that moment was really preparing me for this moment over here. And I wouldn't have been as successful over there without that bump, or without that thing that I just totally forgot about and didn't even think was important. But oh my God, if it hadn't happened, I wouldn't have been over there. But we never really take the time to reflect on our life and think about how these moments have shaped, prepared, and moved us in certain directions. And it happened so long ago, you didn't know, you weren't thinking about it. But now that you're in this position, you're like, that was a really pivotal moment, right? Sometimes we experience pivotal moments, but we don't know we're experiencing them while we're experiencing them. And it's only when we look backward at our life that we're able to see, wow, that moment really shaped me and made me who I am today. And from that moment, my life was forever changed. And that's the moment that I need to put in this personal statement as it relates to why this passion area is so important, that I need to go to law school and spend 3 years and a couple $1,000s, right? Tens of thousands of dollars on law school, because I need to become an attorney because of things that were set in motion before I even realized I was setting things in motion, right? You're connecting these dots so that it seems like a thread, but you're really connecting backwards. There's this quote that I'm going to totally butcher. But basically it says life can only be lived forwards, but only understood backwards, right? But it's really it's really important, because while you're living your life, you don't always understand how it's shaping up. But when you look backwards at your life, then you understand how you got there. And that's the exercise I want you to try to do with your personal statement brainstorming, is to look backward at your life and understand how you got here. And when you understand that about yourself, and you understand why you want to go to law school, what your passion is, then you can really have a clear look at the stories and the moments in your life and pick out the stories that are going to weave and tell that narrative. What I also love about doing a really large brainstorming session with my students, and we have templates and graphic organizers and all these things, but what I love doing is that the stories that you don't use in your personal statement end up being used in your diversity statement, or in your supplemental essays, or in outside scholarship essays, or fellowship essays, right? So it's not that you need to brainstorm everything, and everything that you brainstorm needs to make it into your personal statement. I started this by saying you're writing more than one essay. And that's why it's important to know that, because that brainstorming session, I want you to brainstorm one time, right? And then once you have that brainstorm, then you can see where they go and what pieces of the puzzle it goes into. I've always said your application is like a puzzle. I say you can be a 50-piece puzzle or an 1,000-piece puzzle. Be an 1,000-piece puzzle. You are a multifaceted and very interesting individual. So, don't just give me the bare bones. Show me who you are. But also every piece that you put together needs to form together, right? You're making one cohesive narrative. So your personal statement, your diversity statement, your resume, your addenda, your transcript, they all form one picture. And hopefully it's a coherent picture so that someone can look at it and be like, oh, I know what it is, right? That's kind of what you want from your application. So the second thing I told you guys is I would tell you how to make a plan, right? I've kind of given you some advice about how to start with the brainstorming process. I will continue to make videos about the brainstorming process because it's that important. But I want you to really think about making a plan. May, June, July, August, September. Applications open in September. So we are about 4 months from the start of applications actually being open. I say it takes usually about 3 months at least to get all of your application materials together. And I say at least because I've been doing law school admissions consulting for 8 years, and I can tell you that I work with people for more than 3 months. You will be surprised at how long it takes to actually perfect all of your materials, right? And that is because I will say most students write about 4 to 5 drafts of each essay. Now, you're not redoing the essay every time, but you're iterating, you're fixing little sentences, you're fixing transitions, you're fixing things, you're getting it really right. When you don't give yourself enough time to write, you don't give yourself enough time to tweak, which means that you don't get to make sure that that transition is just right, or that story was just right, or that quote was integrated smoothly, right? Those are the little details that you get when you give yourself enough time in the process. So I like to say it takes about 4 to 5 drafts, maybe 4 drafts, let's call it 4, for each of your essays. Okay, you have a personal statement and a diversity statement at a minimum. That's 8 drafts. And now I want you to be really realistic with yourself, super realistic. What does my work schedule look like? Am I also studying for the LSAT exam? Oh, I have a busy work life and I'm studying for the LSAT exam? Do I really think that I can write a draft consistently every single week? Maybe you do. Maybe you're like me and your Asana to-do list is always longer than it needs to be. I carry things over week after week. It just happens. I'm human, right? Okay, so then you give yourself a little bit more time. You're like, well, okay, Dan, I might have some busy weeks. So maybe a draft every single week. My kids, they've got, one of my kids is graduating from 5th grade, and, then I have soccer practice, and, they got summer camp, and, we're going on a 2-week vacation as a family, so there's the summer, right? Okay, so now we see how we get to 12 weeks, 16 weeks, right? Because life happens, and my dad always says, hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. And so we're hoping that we're going to be really efficient and knock this out, but we're going to prepare for the fact that we're going to get sick and our kids are going to need us and we're going to take a vacation. And some weeks we're just not going to be feeling it, just not feeling it. So probably you want to give yourself at least 3 months. If you give yourself 4 months, hey, it's September 1, right? Okay, so when should you start preparing for the law school application process? Now. I like to say you should give yourself at least 1 to 2 weeks of brainstorming also, so you're not even drafting. And then you need to be outlining your essays, and like I said, we're going to have a special exciting tool coming to you in June. We're actually, we're doing some things back here, so look out for that. But you do want to outline your essays and do that pre-work. Those are also weeks added on to my little drafting calendar. Okay, so let's say you want to start with your personal statement. Okay, so it's almost May 1. Maybe you say, well, I want a first draft of my personal statement. First draft, which means brainstorming and outlining, are done. I want my first draft of the personal statement done May 15th. It's a little aggressive. Let's call it May 15th. All right, so you're watching this today. You're saying, all right, Sydney, I'm going to do the brainstorming. I'm going to brainstorm on my stories. I'm going to pick my stories. I'm going to create an outline. By the way, we do have courses on this. I will talk to you about that. And let's say I'm going to do that by May 15th. Okay, great. First draft done May 15th. Are you going to send it to somebody? Your mom, your dad, your spouse, your teacher, your pre-law advisor, a service, us? Who are you going to send it to? Doesn't matter. Maybe you're just going to send it to yourself. Sure. You read that first draft on May 15th. A week later, it's like May 22nd. We have our second draft. Okay, I'm feeling, okay about it. We're feeling okay. I have some major revisions to do. Usually the first draft's not so great. So we did some major revisions in a week. We turned it around. It's May 22nd. All right, let's do it again, right? All right, I have a little bit more tweaking to do. I sent it to someone else. They were like, your opening. Let's change it. So I'm going to change my opening. All right, now it's May 29th, right? Okay, great. So personal statement just about done. It's top of June. All right. Some of you are taking the June LSAT, so honestly, you're just going to be out for 2 weeks. But let's say it's top of June, your personal statement's just about done. We're going to look at our diversity statement now, right? Okay, going back to the outlining stage. So that's another week. So now we're at let's call it June 5th. Okay, great. And then we are going to start writing our first draft of our diversity statement because we were still tweaking our personal statement a little bit. So now it's June 12th. So maybe you say, okay, I want my personal statement totally done. Like I don't want to look at it anymore by June 12th. Okay. And my diversity statement, maybe we're having a couple of drafts about that. And I want my diversity statement totally done by maybe June 30th, right? Because I'm going to give myself a couple weeks. And this is not accounting for any vacations or sick time or anything. So now your personal statement, your diversity statement are done. It's the top of July. We're in a really good place. Now we're going to make sure that our resume is done. We're going to write in the addenda that we need. That's probably going to take 2 weeks for both of those. So we're about July 15th. How are we feeling? We're feeling pretty good. This is assuming you are not studying or taking the LSAT or taking any breaks. So now we're at July 15th. That's amazing. We have our letters of recommendation. Those are in. You could theoretically be done with all of your essays by the end of July if you aggressively follow that, right? I don't know what your life is like. I kind of walked you through this hypothetical example because I wanted you to start thinking through how you make your own life plan. Now, if I were making my own life plan, I know that I am moving at the end of July. And I know that my sister is graduating from high school, so that whole week is gone. And also we're going to Disney because my sister is graduating from high school, so that whole week is done. So if I were making a plan for my life, I would be skipping some weeks. Skip. But I would have my little planner and I would still put, okay, so this week I'm not working on anything. So next week I'll probably work on that first draft of the personal statement. We're gone those 2 weeks. So then probably the second draft of the personal statement because I'm going to come back from vacation. And, you come back from vacation, it's like the world explodes. So probably not that week. So then, that's how I would do it. So whatever you need to do with your planner, I love planners. I want you to look at your summer, look at any vacations you have planned. Plan for, if you're taking the LSAT, the week leading up to the LSAT, just go ahead and just cross that off. You're not working on your essays. And really figure out when are my essays getting done this summer. If you're feeling like you need an accountability partner, hey, we're right here. I spend a lot of time asking people where things are because I know that I need that even in my own life. I have hired essay coaches for myself for various projects or writing pieces that I'm doing because I tend to put everyone else above my own self. I don't know who can relate. And so I know that I need someone who holds me accountable. Sometimes it's the fact that I paid someone to hold me accountable that keeps me accountable. I'm just being really honest with you guys. It's the money for me. It's like, well, yeah, I paid this person, so I'm going to actually have to spend some time to write. Otherwise, I'm just wasting money. And for me, that's motivating. Listen, we are sometimes able to do for others more than we can do for ourselves. So I'm just being honest with you about that, right? So that's the plan. That's how I would go about making a plan. It's really important that you have a plan because these 4 months are going to go really quickly. And before you know it, it will be September. And so I want to make sure that you do have a plan so that you feel confident going into this process, right? And then that third piece is just making sure that you feel good, right? About the writing that you're doing, those extra pieces, right? Your resume, your letters of recommendation, your transcripts. Your transcripts, you can, if you're, done with school or if you've been done with school, go ahead and request them now, right? Go ahead, and one of those first steps you should do is make sure that you're signing up for the Credential Assembly Service with LSAC. If you have a fee waiver, or if you feel like you could have a fee waiver because of your income, definitely apply for an LSAC fee waiver. They will waive the Credential Assembly Service fee for you, but otherwise, go ahead and bite that bullet. The Credential Assembly Service is good for 5 years, so you can go ahead and ask for your letters of recommendation from your professors, get your transcripts, start the ball rolling on that, because you don't fully control the timeline there, right? There's always administrative delays, or professors get busy. So you want to give them and your school as much time so that when September 1 rolls around, everything is already in the system and you're not waiting on an external thing. You want to be in control of when you hit submit. So I would say, make sure that you request your transcripts as soon as possible if you're done with school, or make sure that you do it as soon as you're able to, and start that process of asking for letters of recommendation. Again, we have a free essential guide to applying to law school, and there is information in there, not just about your essays, but also about asking for letters of recommendation, because you want to make sure that you get those into the Credential Assembly Service as soon as possible. So we talked about one, brainstorming, right? How to get started with your essays. It's so, so important. We also talked about how to make a plan, right? Like literally, I kind of role played for you how you could literally make a plan in your planner for your essays. So many people don't. Please do. And then we talked about those other pieces of your application, the letters of recommendation, the transcript, the things that maybe are relying on other people. Just as a reminder, like I said, we will have a lot of updates in May and in June, so make sure you're on our email list. You can download our free essential guide to law school. Look at our quick start essay plans. We have provided a lot of goodness for you, a lot of accessible goodness for you. If you have questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me. You can reach us at hello@smontgomeryconsulting.com. I can't wait to hear from you. I can't wait to see how this journey plays out for you, and I can't wait to be here with you every week as we go through this application process. I will talk to you guys very soon.